30-second warning. 30-second warning.
So you're in the moment.
Okay, let's come back together. Let's wrap it up. Okay, back to the front. I hope everybody had an opportunity to find out something about a new person that you didn't know before. So now you are the reporter. You're the PR person that has been asked to put forward something about that person that would be of interest to your local media market. I'm going to ask Linda if she'll, are there any volunteers over here who'd like to say something about their person? Yes.
My name is Mark Shapercutter, and I would like to introduce to you two of the most interesting people that you're ever going to meet in your life. Todd is a past vice district governor from Minnesota, and when he was district governor, he challenged his other district governors in the state of Minnesota, or in his multiple districts, to get 100% membership with all of his clothes, making donations of $50 or more to LCIF. Now, within his district, he challenged all of the people in his district, all of the clubs in his district, to donate $50 and have 100% participation. And if they had 100% participation, then he ponied up for a $1,000 donation to LCIF. Guess what happened with the challenge? Every club in his district that he was the governor of donated $50 or more to LCIF. They had 100% participation, and then he paid up the $1,000 as he had promised to do. And I think that's incredible.
Thanks a lot. That's good. I'm going to ask you to go on. I realize you wanted to name two, but I want to get some others to participate. If you could give just something that you think was unique about the person that you'd like him to. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for your generosity too.
I'm happy to introduce Lion Janet, who's past district governor from Canada, who enjoys dragon boating.
Dragon boating.
And who fosters puppies for the Lions Foundation of Canada.
Great, very good. Thank you. Let's cut across to the other side of the room and get a couple over there. She'll work her way. I told Linda I would keep it geographically centered so she wouldn't have to crisscross. We try to focus one side at a time. Who over here would like to share? What's the nugget that the news media needs to know? There's one over there.
I would like to introduce you to George, and as he was talking about the campus club that called him at 4 o'clock this morning to let him know about their fundraiser last night, he reminded them of all the different ways did you put it on Google, and then all of a sudden it's broadcast to Google, Instagram, tweet. These kids have got, I think he said, 8 different media sources that they publish, not only the fundraising, but pictures, oodles of pictures. And I asked him why he wasn't making a presentation. Nothing against Dr. Dugan.
Thank you. Thanks. And there's one in the back, and then we'll continue on. You'll get a chance to share. We're going to be doing some things throughout. So if you got to speak now or you didn't get to speak now and you want to, there'll be another chance. So just we'll let you all participate.
How many of you are pet owners? If you're ever involved in Wisconsin, you need to stop and see Dr. David Lindquist. He's the veterinarian there, and he will do a number on your animals for you. He's a proud father of 3 daughters, 7, 9, and 11, so he's entering the fun years. And he said that fortunately they have 2 bathrooms, so he gets to use one of them.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing those examples. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is that when you are looking for news or things that you want to share with the community, you have to think about the kinds of stories that you're putting out and what is going to be of interest to the news media so that they will want to pick up the story. As we think about the basics of public relations, there are many different kinds of traditional public relations that you maybe are familiar with. And Lions Clubs International has all of these examples on their website. So there are samples of press releases and different things that you could use. But traditional forms of PR included writing up press releases where you gave the who, what, when, why, how of the information so that it would be events that were happening or people who were coming or awards that were won. When a club wants to do something to promote an activity, preparing flyers and handing them out. A lot of these things involve people, person-to-person communication, talking to friends, word of mouth. Like today, you were sharing stories, word of mouth. Now you've heard something, you could pass that along if you wanted to. Even wearing a Lions lapel pin is a way to promote public relations because it shows that you're a member of an organization. But as the example that was brought up over here with the web and all of the new Instagram, Twitter, all the ways that we can use the internet, those are the new, internet and social media have changed the rules of the game. And we can no longer rely only on our traditional sources of public relations because we're not going to reach the number of people that we want to reach in order to get our message across. And the new thing that's happening that we all need to become more and more aware of and more skilled at is using our cell phones. Now I know we're a generation that is kind of, the cell phones have been thrust upon us. But now I can tell you, at the University of Central Florida, instead of having all kinds of broadcast equipment, which they do have for their studios, they are teaching courses for the students to be able to use their cell phone to do all of the production. They can write the story on the cell phone, they can send the story on the cell phone, they can shoot footage on the cell phone, they can edit on the cell phone, everything is on the cell phone. And the new term for this is convergence media. That we are now converging all of our tools into using the technology that's available, and that is going to streamline it. So you could be out at a site doing a service project, you could shoot some footage of the people doing the service project, you could interview people who are working there, you could put that right out on the internet, you could do it instantly, and if Lions Clubs International is successful in our new marketing adventure, we're going to have an app for your phone, so you can even then go into the phone and send a message on the app to LCI that 10 Lions from your club were doing a service project in a community affecting X number of people on this day, send, it's recorded. And suddenly, the bottleneck that sometimes happens for the secretary in having to report everything will simply be all taken care of with one cell phone. So the world is changing. The rules of the world are changing. So I'd like you to think for a minute about some of the traditional ways that you have promoted your Lions Club's activities. What would be like your primary way that you promote your club's activities? Anybody want to share one? Okay, right there in front of you.
Facebook.
Facebook.
We have a banner that hangs across the street for pancake breakfast.
Okay, a banner so when people drive by they see it. Yes.
A
Website. Other examples, yes.
Newspapers.
Newspapers, writing an article, yes.
mailing list.
Mailing list, sending things out, yes.
Posters in the local stores.
Posters in the local stores. These are all good traditional ways that we have reached out, and they include both traditional like posters and banners and mailing lists, but it's also including the new social media because we know we can have a big impact if we use the social media. When you think about traditional PR and you think about the press releases and interviews and public speaking, all of those things are effective ways. And taking pictures and putting it into the newspaper, public service announcements that come on that you can get on the news media in your television stations or the public radio announcements. All of these things are traditional PR. And I really don't want to talk a lot about traditional PR today, but they still are a means for us to get our information out. And as a public relations officer for your club, or somebody who's interested in it, you need to know these types of traditional ways, because there still are people who take a press release and turn it into a story. Now, there are going to be some reasons why some press releases are accepted and others aren't, but we have traditional forms of public relations. These traditional forms of public relations should be in our toolkit, but today I'm going to talk to you about some new strategies and some ways to maybe get better use of these traditional forms. So I'd like you to think for a minute about who you think the current players are. When you think about public relations, who do you think of? Newspapers. Television. Radio. Newsletters. So you're giving me the bloggers. The bloggers. You're giving me the places where the messages go. But the players really are the people behind those venues. And that's what I want to spend a little bit of time talking about. So one of the players of the game is you. If you are your public relations chair for your club, you are the person who has a responsibility to communicate to the community through multiple channels. And you've shared several of those channels this morning. Your job as a public relations chair, as a player, is to make sure that you keep the club aware of what's going on. It's not just PR outside of the club, it's also PR in the club. It's also important for you as a PR chair to make sure LCI knows what's going on. I mean, we have a reporting function on My LCI where you can tell your club's activities every week. And when you think about that opportunity, many clubs aren't taking advantage of it. In fact, there are clubs that haven't reported their activities. They're modest. We're not doing it to get recognized. We're just doing the service. But we really need to know. And so reporting to LCI and submitting that information so it can be put out is important for us, because if we're the leader of the world in providing service, we need to have the proof. And the proof is what we do. So the publicity chair is certainly one of the players. And another player would be any individual lion who is either wearing a pin or has a website or a blog. That person can be communicating as well. And we have to think about positive and negative publicity, because we can have a person who has a blog or puts information out that might be negative or might be controversial. That can be bad public relations for lions. So we have to remember that just because you have access to the internet, you can put out what you think. As a lion, you represent our bigger organization. And we need to make sure our Lions Club members know that every lion is the PR chair for the committee, not just the person who's been elected to be in charge of getting the news out to the media. So public relations, the players are the official player, but all of us as individual lions, and putting our best foot forward in all situations to promote the organization. And I think it's important to also mention that when we work with local media, if we're the official designated person, then we have a legitimate opportunity to talk to the media. But if we are that individual lion who maybe is doing something negative, that is detrimental. And so as the club, we have to understand that. Now, out in the other team, that would be outside of the club, we have the traditional media, and it's not the newspaper or the television studio, it's not the entity, but it's really the people. At every newspaper, there's somebody who's the copy editor, the person who takes your message and puts it into type and puts it in the paper. Because it's very rare that you will find any editor or any newspaper person who will just take your story out of what you've written and put it straight into the paper. They will usually rewrite it because they will want it to be more in the format that they want to present to the public, and they will have their own style sheet. The newspaper editor may make a decision about what should go into the paper. You know, one of the problems for clubs that live in larger metropolitan areas that have a large newspaper that might be a regional or even a national newspaper is they'll say, we're not publishing any of that information because we are not a local paper. And you might get a lot of opportunity with a smaller paper in a community where the editor will say, send me everything you've got and I'll get the information in. So these are people who make these decisions. The media personnel at the television studio, whether they'll go out and shoot your coverage or not, or whether they will take the time to interview you. These are not just these blank places, television, newspaper, whatever. They're the people there. And that's where I want you to focus your attention for your strategies to be more effective, is to make the connection with the people. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Also, we have new media. Every website has a manager, somebody who keeps it up. If you're the person who keeps up your website, if you want to demonstrate good public relations, you obviously will want to always be updating it. Nothing is worse than having a website that the last time it was updated was last fall. You have new officers, you have new projects, new activities. You're not getting the PR there that you need. So knowing who the manager is and getting that manager information. You know, we have a lion in our district that is very happy to put information on the website. He'll do it whenever you send it to him. But he says, I'm not writing the news. I'll put it up for you. And so you need to make sure that you're working with that person. That is the person who will get your information out. Or the blog writer, or again, the personal and group Facebook pages can all be players. There are people who do this. So let's focus on a question. Why don't Lions Clubs get the coverage that they want from the local media?
You don't try.
You don't try.
They don't ask.
They don't ask.
Organized.
What?
They're not organized about how they want to go about getting that.
Okay, they're not organized.
So is it too late?
Too late.
Feel it's not important to the community.
Say that one more time.
They feel the news of the club's not important to the community.
They feel the news of the club is not important to the community. Yes?
Sometimes we want the media to come do it for us instead of us sending it.
Okay, we expect that they're just going to come to us because we're so interesting. Yeah.
Also developing a relationship with them. They may not take you at first, but constantly update them.
That's a really good point. Actually, that's kind of a theme of what my presentation is going to be. It really is about establishing a relationship. You know, some of the reasons why the media won't accept our stories are, first of all, it's not immediate. You know, if it's news, it's happening right now. If it happened last week and you're sending an article and a picture about something that happened last week, probably they're not going to put it because it's not news anymore. So if you want to get your news into the media, getting it as close to or concurrent with what's going on is essential. Immediacy is one of the reasons why the news will say, it's old news. We're a newspaper for what's going on right now. Another is amount of information. You know, we may send all sorts of information that we think is really interesting. Boy, we could read columns and columns of things about lions, right? Because we like it. But when they are looking at it, they look at this 3 or 4 page press release that has all these details that are only of interest to the Lions, not to the community. That's too much information. We don't have room for that. Out it goes. Controlling the copy. You know, we type it up in a certain way, and we want it to be laid out like this because it makes sense to us, and they change it all around, and we get kind of upset with them. Like, well, you left out this. He's an immediate past district governor. You didn't put that in there. That's really important to us. Well, it's not important because nobody understands that. And what's the world of Lions like without acronyms, you know? All these, you know, everything that we're doing, it's all about acronyms. And so that kind of information, they'll throw it out. Sometimes they'll say, you know, we'll put it in if we have room. And then, oh, we had this big story today, so we didn't have room. And then, well, now it's old news. And so suddenly, even the best efforts can be thwarted. And obviously, then the point being, they don't want to show favoritism. Like, we can't put in stories about Lions because then we'll have to put in stories about Rotary, and then we'll have to put in stories about all these other groups. And we don't have room for that. And it's too much information, and it's old news. So these rules of the game kind of get in our way, and then we start saying, well, they're not going to publish it anyway, so I'm not going to send it. And then the Lions Club gives up. And so the new rules are pretty straightforward. First of all, don't be spam. Imagine what it must be like for that person who is the news editor, who gets, you know, all these emails, like, here's interesting information. 30 emails in the box. from all these different groups. You send it through email, and now they're reading, and they simply will say, this is just another article, and it's coming from a Lions Club, and I'm not interested. Delete, 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 delete. When you don't have a relationship, you become spam. I know that when I get things from people I don't know, unless it's something in the tag that makes me pay attention, I probably delete them. You know, when you get a lot of emails, and the editors do, you'll probably delete them. So don't be spam. But if they know it's coming from you because you called them and you said, Tom, I'm going to be sending in an article. What's the email I should send it to so you get it? And they'll say, well, send it to this. And I'll say, okay, it's coming right now. And I type it in, and I send it, and Tom gets it. And then I'm able to use that connection because he knows it's coming, so he's watching for it. I ask him, would you like to have a picture with that? Yes, okay, send it along. And we send it along. So don't be spam, have a relationship. Another way, a new rule of the game is that if you can't find it on Google, it isn't important. You know, you have to find a way to get it up onto the internet so that when somebody types in the information, that story will come up. And you can do that by establishing a website or a link so that you can put your information so that it goes onto Google. So if the news editor gets your press release and then types into Google and up pops this information, it's newsworthy. Because if it's on Google, it's obviously newsworthy, right? The other thing that we have to think about is that we always think about only sending the really big information. You know, we don't think about the ongoing role that we're playing. And you know, you were talking about some things here that I think if we started thinking a little bit more about it, how can we make this more relevant to a community? We're providing scholarships for students at the high school. We're providing eyeglasses for children, or we're providing food at Thanksgiving. We're doing things that have a community appeal. And we're going to talk about developing good content in a minute. And obviously, one good way to always spread good PR about Lions is to provide the link to the Lions website on everything you send out and do. Because Lions are constantly putting out news, they're putting out video, photos, and if any editor is interested in your club and you say for more information about Lions, go to, they might click on that and go to it. So the rules of the game are you can't just present your information and say take it or leave it. You have to develop the relationship. Otherwise, you're just spam and you're not important. Well, now I'm going to give you a little assignment. Lion President Bob Corlew is coming to your community in 2 weeks. So how are you going to publicize his visit with your local media? I want you to just turn to the person next to you and strategize for a minute. Like you're going to have Bob Corlew in your community and you want to get the biggest bang out of that buck for your club. Think about what your strategies might be. Take a minute or two.
So we can't talk. That's wonderful. You've isolated yourself in the world. Enter pause. This is the formal meeting. Anyway, and Bob, he goes by Bob. He goes by Little, that's where the Corlew episode.